Hey guys, and welcome to the field of battle where once again we have an epic showdown between the mighty Regenerator leading the forces of Empire. Thief, Steel and Gunpowder shall be his weapons, up against Mr. Tefel and his High Elf forces. Very talented High Elf player, in fact. So it's going to be a good, fun scrap. And we do have some pretty interesting units on the field of battle that we don't get to see terribly often, particularly from the Empire. So I'm really excited to delve into this one. So let's have a little look at the boys today. So we have two mortars in the central pocket here, and they're going to be protected by spearmen. Mortars, not the most common artillery piece, but very good up against the tightly packed formation of the High Elves. Good at clearing out archers, as well as dishing out pretty solid damage to the front line. In the central pocket, we also have the Silver Bullets, Regiment of Renowned Handgunners, who do have stalks. They can certainly get the drop on their opponents. In the front line, we do have spearmen dotted along, but behind them, we have two units of the Greatswords. I absolutely love Greatswords. They're such a cool unit. You don't get to see them very often, though, but they're going to be wielding their mighty blades in battle here today, and I can certainly see them being pretty good in this matchup. They should be able to dispatch spearmen and rangers like nobody's business, and go toe-to-toe with some more of the elite units the High Elves do have to offer, and counter cavalry to a point as well. Right in the back, we have double Reiksguard Cavalry, and Reiksguard Cavalry are one of these units which you basically never see, which is quite odd. They're mid-tier cavalry, anti-infantry, relatively decent on the charge as well, a charge bonus of 62 coming in. You really do have to bounce these guys around the battlefield to get their value. Now, I've heard a lot of mixed views on the Reiksguard. Many people think they're just worse Empire Knights who are more, because they are a bit more expensive, but not good enough to be Knights of the Blazing Sun. But I do think this is one of the few matchups where they can really shine, because they're very good up against the infantry of the High Elves, and likewise, unless there's Dragon Princes, the Reiksguard should be able to overwhelm the majority of the High Elf cavalry. With a warrior priest leading them as well, coming in with all of the goodies and looking like an absolute G on the front lines there, leading the Reiksguard. For the leadership portion, we also have a Jade Wizard coming in with Earthblood and Regrowth, as you'd expect when you have the Emperor himself gracing your presence. We have Karl Franz, and he's going to be bringing Galmaraz. No Runefang today, so he's not dual wielding, just bringing his one mighty axe. And look at the big bird flapping its wings, looking super aggressive. He, of course, causes terror, massively heavy hitting, but can be a bit squishy, hence why you have the Jade Wizard. For the forces here of the mighty High Elves, it looks like we have a few units in Vanguard. We actually have double Illyrian Reaver archers on this right-hand side, supported by a noble. On the right-hand flank, we also have the Fireborn Regiment of Renowned Dragon Princes with their flaming lances and their glorious red colour scheme. They're going to be a pretty big pain here. They should be able to take down the Reiksguard relatively comfortably. They do have anti-large and are far more expensive and elite, but Silver Bullets can certainly take them to pieces. For the main battle line, it is a ton of rangers backed up by a couple of units of spearmen and two archers in that central core. More Dragon Princes out on the far left-hand side, and Alariel the Radiant, as you would expect, shall be leading the forces. When you've invested so much into cavalry, you really need to get your value back from them, and healing is a good way to do that. We have Star of Avalon, as well as Earthblood, Far's Protection, Tempest, as well as Arcane Unforging, a spell you don't get to see it terribly often. And of course, we do have Arcane Conduit as well, because she's going to need it to get through all that magic. The mortars do sing, and the elves do cry, although it seems like they just about managed to get off that scot-free. At least for now, but the Empire just getting their eye in at the moment, waiting to bring the pain to the enemy. Illyrian Reavers have floated out to that side, looking to apply some pressure to the mortars, which is good play, but little do they know there are Silver Bullets who are currently hidden, waiting in the wings to unleash deadly salvos at them. A big fat Tempest, Overcast in fact, does go down on Karl Franz. That's going to be some good initial damage on him. The mortars, though, really starting to bring the pain to those archers who have taken quite a bit of punishment so far. Archers are starting to focus down Franz Meister himself, trying to stack that damage with the help of Tempest here. We will probably be getting a fat juicy hill, and it looks like that's just what's happening. An Earthblood coming down to keep Karl Franz nice and topped up here. It looks like he's going to be hit, though, by an Arcane Unforging, I believe. Interesting to see how much damage he does. He's on 3,700 health at the moment. Frontline is well and truly engaged. Rangers should be slaughtering the spearmen, but the Greatswords giving them a bit of a tougher time. Scrapping back there, wielding those dual-bladed swords, with pretty good efficiency. So Arcane Unfortunate seems to last a really long time. Karl Franz actually down to just below 2.5k HP and is having to retreat away from the main battle line at the moment. That should buy time for the Dragon Princes to swing around and start pressuring this back line, because they certainly need to be doing that. And it looks like they have actually collapsed. The old classic hammer and anvil tactic, breaking the front line of the spearmen and opening up the rangers to be able to delve into the back line and really start crushing some of these mortars who have reaped a bloody toll on the archers at the moment. Looks like the War Priest doing his best in the central pocket, aided here by Karl Franz, who's been hit by a regrowth, Shield of Faith and Gal Maraz. We do have, though, a Star of Avalon trying to counterpunch that, but the Noble is being eviscerated despite the healing here. Karl Franz and the Warrior Priest dishing out the damage. Franz, your boy, coming in to save the Priest, who was struggling quite badly. We do have the Firebond saturated in here, as well as Spearmen, though, so the Reiksguard, unfortunately, are getting punished quite heavily, not having the best of days so far for them. Reeve Archers are being forced back as well. Silver Bullets have done some pretty solid work so far. We also have Dragon Princes starting to swarm into the back lines. How are the Reiksguard doing? Well, they're not doing too bad whatsoever. They've kind of cycle charged in here and broken up the Rangers, helped shatter the Noble, and now they're going to start driving into the back line. Lances lowered, charging headlong into these Archers, going to be overwhelming them and dragging them down. This is what Cavalry is so good at, pressuring the enemy back line, particularly in this mid to late stage of the battle. Jade Wizard does get sniped out by the Dragon Princes. Good targeting there by the high elf player, realising it doesn't matter how much damage I do to Franz if they're just going to keep healing him, so we need to drag down the caster. Kill it before it can heal. The Reiksguard are dueling Spearmen at the moment, which isn't the best for their HP, and this unit is being dealt with relatively effectively, only 26 kills on them. Dragon Princes have been surrounded, though. They went to try to shut down the Silver Bullets and the Mortar Crew, but now they're sandwiched between Spearmen and Greatswords. Those Greatswords are going to be hacking at the horses, decapitating them, and piercing the thick 110 armor of the Dragon Princes, who are really not having the best days so far. Alariel is going to swoop down onto the Silver Bullets to try and deal with them. And it looks like the Warrior Priest once again is going to be calling on his faith to drive away the Spearmen. Good micromanagement, though, by the high elf player. It does mean he's able to dodge the worst of the Fury there. Firebond are starting to swarm in, hunting down the Mortar. Looks like they're going to be able to overwhelm it and hopefully break the Spearmen with a Thunderous Charge in the flank. That will then free up the second unit of Dragon Princes and maybe allow a little bit of damage to come in onto the Greatswords. But Karl Franz leads the Reiksguard with a furious counter charge straight into the flank here of the Dragon Princes, who immediately try to flee for their lives. They get healed up by Earthblood, but they are terrified, and I do not blame them. Karl Franz is here, and he is rather angry with them. Fireborn are still going strong, and it looks like the High Elves have just about got the mobility relatively under control. Should be able to shut down the Silver Bullets, but maybe not if they can break the Illyrian Reaver charge before it even hits them. Reload fire, lads. They need to break them, but they're actually going to be moving forward, and it looks like the Illyrian Reavers are a little bit having an existential crisis right now and deciding to sit still before getting obliterated by the Silver Bullets. Spearmen are saturated in against Spearmen. That's going to be a wet noodle contest there, but Dragon Princes certainly can do some glorious cycling where possible, and the Fireborn are currently engaged with the Reiksguard with a little bit of missile support as well from the Elvish Archers. Fast protection goes down on the Fireborn, pinning their armor up to 114. The Reiksguard certainly going to struggle in that fight now, but they've been amazing so far, this unit. Up to 92 kills already, and now actually holding back the Dragon Princes, allowing the Spearmen to get in there, and that's going to be some pretty good damage going both ways. Some of the surviving Dragon Princes, 19 left, once again charging into the Great Swords, looking to take them from behind and break them. Spearmen not doing a bad job whatsoever, and Alariel the Radiant just about managing to hang out with Karl Franz here. As I said before, it is rather squishy, and he's getting staggered, surrounded by Knights and Spearmen. He certainly can get dragged down, and the Fireborn a little bit too late to the party. Otherwise, Karl Franz could have been in some really big trouble. But it looks like he may just be able to escape, but perhaps not. He's actually been trapped once more now. Fireborn coming in with a lovely surround, but we do have the support of Rangers and Spearmen who can come back in as well to help drag the beastie down. But Alariel the Radiant's currently vibing in the distance, chasing off Great Swords, wants to be back here really, and going after Karl Franz, who has been buffed by the Hammer of Sigma. It does look like the Fireborn have been forced back, and Karl Franz may yet survive, As for the rest of the battle, Empire starting to gain the upper hand once more as Reiksguard do swoop back in. Silver bullets are back online, and so is one of the mortars. A lot of the Elvish infantry has just been ground down over time, and we still have 56 greatswords returning to the main fight. Reiksguard lances load. What they're going after? Some rangers who looked like they were trying to commandeer the mortars, didn't understand how to use them, and got a bit punished there. Reiksguard did a little hit and run before bouncing back into the rear of this spear unit, once again showcasing the hammer and anvil tactic. Overwhelming the spearmen, who are broken now before the might of the greatsword. Karl Franz is going after those dragon princes, does have to be slightly careful. He doesn't have many friends nearby, and if the Fireborn decide to turn and fight this with the support of Alarielle, Karl Franz could be going down. It looks like Alario instead is chasing off the mortar crew, trying to wrap up and save some of these Elvish units on the periphery, which is a good idea. Balance power is slightly in the High Elf favour, but I think that can be a little bit deceptive because it seems to me that the Empire in a state of advantage right now. Greatswords just about dealing with the Rangers, who unfortunately are terrified away, and the Warrior Priest is trying to dispatch the Fireborn, who are up to 109 kills, and that Warrior Priest once again needs the help of Karl Franz to be saved because our Lariel is a really angry pigeon lady right now. The Warrior Priest does decide to run, simply a tactical retreat. Stay here, Franz, I'll go back and get help. But it looks like the Dragon Princes have been forced back. Likewise, the Fireborn, the Reiksguard fighting to the death alongside their Emperor. And now charging down archers, overwhelming the cavalry force. Alarielle, though, given as good as she gets right now. Fast protection has been popped on her, buffing up her stats against Karl Franz, who is wielding the dwarf-crafted Warhammer. And it's a pretty close scrap between these two. Dragon Princes do rally to Z-Lady, looking to hold back Karl Franz, but he is one hell of a beast, slapping Alarielle around. Now that her charge bonus has gone, she simply does not stand a chance. The Emperor of Mankind roars victorious on top of the mighty Deathclaw here, and it looks like it shall be a Pyrrhic victory for the forces of the Empire. For Alarielle got some really lucky RNG and overwhelmed Franz there. Perhaps it would have been the Empire forces which did indeed go for a big chain rout. Very well played to these two lads. An awesome game, Reginator and Mr. Tefel, who actually had a really cool set of games recently on a factional we did here on the channel. And awesome game, both these lads. I love seeing the greatswords of the Reiksguard in action. Likewise, it's always a treat to see good heavy cavalry play there with the Dragon Princes. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Karl Franz was certainly a raid boss, getting over 4,000 damage value, over 10k damage dealt and 53 kills, really assassinating the key targets in the form of the Noble, Alara at the end there, and hunting down those Dragon Princes. We will delve into the damage dealt and damage value kills of all of the units in just a second, particularly see how those Reiksguard did indeed get on. But before we get to that moment, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a big fat thumbs up, subscribe as well to the channel for more future content and all that glorious good stuff. We did recently hit a big landmark recently, which was 6,000 subscribers, which is pretty damn crazy. So on to the next one, we continue to grow the Mighty Duck Legions. Comment down below as well what you thought of the battle. Simply yell faith, steel and gunpowder if you wanted the Empire to win, or do some sad Aisha or Isha, not sure how it's pronounced, tears if the you were rooting for the High Elves and unfortunately did perish here today. Simply yell quack as well. I really do enjoy reading all the comments. Or who was your MVP? What was your favourite moment of the battle? Let me know. There are also links down below in the description to my Patreon, where you can indeed support the channel, or my Discord, where you can submit replays, just like Reginator did here today, get involved in tournaments and events that I host, and just keep up to date with the channel and chill out with a load of cool people. I think we're up to like over 700 members now. It's absolutely wild. So, back to the glorious action. We've gone over Karl Franz, probably the MVP here today, really saving his Warrior Priest buddy, who I think did make it out alive, but only just. You can see the sliver of health on him. 33 kills, 763 damage value, certainly not too shabby, kind of kept the ground forces in check, while Franz was riding around being a badass. Jade Wizard came in with some good hills, a really important regrowth, keeping Karl Franz alive, actually. If that regrowth didn't go off, I think Franz would have been quite dead by the end of the battle. So he did his job, but unfortunately, good targeting by the High Elf player. Once he did break into the back line, simply slaughtered the Jade Wizard here. Spearmen across the board certainly did not do too shabby. You can see the units which were saturated against the cavalry, because 650 damage value and 548 is quite a big standout, whereas the others really struggled up against the more elite rangers of the High Elf build. As for the great swords, we've got 90 and 135 kills. Good display there by the lads. Up to 964 damage value on this unit. And the one with 135 kills got 1,339 damage value and over 10k damage dealt with 135 kills. Really impressive stuff by the great swords. Silver bullets, as always, are a really useful unit. I recommend bringing them quite a bit for the Empire. 74 kills, 1,772 damage value. These guys really can do quite a lot of burst damage, and the fact they have Stalk means they can often get the drop on their opponent. For the Reiksguard, it was certainly a tale of two different units. One unit still getting a respectable 600 damage value, 26 kills, but did unfortunately get jumped by the Dragon Princes and simply overwhelmed. The other unit, though, performed really quite fantastically. 122 kills, over 1,500 damage value, and this is how Reiksguard should be used, getting bounced around into different infantry fights, working as the hammer to help win the frontline engagement. Reiksguard are not the type of unit who can go toe-to-toe with enemy characters or, you know, big enemy elite cavalry, but if you use them to win the infantry fight, they certainly can be a rather powerful unit. I think slightly underrated. I understand people's gripes with them, not thinking they're too good, but come on, they've got to do pretty good now and again for being nice kind of mid-tier anti-infantries, and I think they are a relatively okay unit. Maybe not quite as cost-effective as Empire Knights, but they do their job a little bit better. For the mortars, a relatively respectable 390 and 634 damage value, but they did manage to clear off those pesky Elvish archers. For Mr. Tefel and his high elf forces, Alariel the Radiant had some really good placement of her spells, healing up the lads, dropping fast protections at the right time, and some pretty scary Arcane Unforging and Tempest play, getting over 2,100 damage value, over 6,000 damage dealt and 53 kills, trying desperately to snipe out Franz in the death, and she did a bucket ton of damage on him throughout the course of the battle. The poor little noble was doing absolutely fine up against the warrior priest with his anti-large against the priest who was on a horseback, but then Franz came in and he kind of became a little smush on the ground, unfortunately. Only 460 damage value. Spimmer did okay. I mean, 820 damage value on this unit is fantastic. The other one faring slightly worse. Rangers was certainly a mixed bag. 117 kills on this unit, though, and 830 damage value. These were certainly the ones that were supported by the Reiksguard, who then enabled them to push through into enemy backline on top of the mortars. But yeah, nothing crazy, to be honest, across the board for the damage value here. Archers, likewise, you know, just 300 damage value, 390. Dragon Princes did a really solid job, was very impressed with the micromanagement of the cavalry here today. 110 kills and over 2,200 damage value, over 12k damage dealt. Yeah, they certainly brought the pain. Likewise, the Fireborn, 2,324 damage value, over 11k damage dealt, and 111 kills. Both the Dragon Princes really putting on a good show and kind of outshining the rest of the High Elf build. The Illyrian of Archers, unfortunately, I mean, 650 damage value is pretty solid. 270 on the other unit, unfortunately, though. The Silver Bullets really did catch them off guard, and they weren't able to shut down the mortars. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a super fun cast. Well played once more to Reginator and Mr. Tefel. Or, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, buddy. Do let me know if I am mispronouncing. But until next time, peace. And as always, stay awesome.